Hey, as usual, gentlemen, make sure that if you have questions along the way, that you feel free to use the chat, and you guys can ask questions anytime about anything. So feel free on that, and we're going to get it going. I think you guys are going to like this. It's pretty cool that every time I do one of these presentations myself, I end up learning a ton. And you know how it goes. Whenever you had to write a paper in college, you probably learned the most. And every week I'm doing a presentation or two. And it's usually based on stuff I already knew, but I usually figure some interesting things out. And the big thing is I'm trying to make this for you guys, to make it so it's actually going to be like helpful and meaningful. So let's get it going. And like I said, if you got questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask. Let's talk about the 141 and big picture first. And before I get started on this, I was talking to John Torpy today, and I don't know if you guys know, he's the head coach at High Point. He was my assistant at Denver for 5 years. Great guy, really smart, incredibly just a great dude, hardworking, funny as hell. And I was telling him about my presentation today, and he actually sent me an awesome clip. So I'm psyched about that. But he loves the 1-4, and he says it's like his favorite set. And when I told you I learned some things about the 1-4 today, what I've probably learned mostly in the last month or two is just how much you see a 1-4 even when you don't realize it. So let's talk about this set in this big picture. Number one, you obviously have a ton of space to dodge with only 4 guys on the perimeter. I always used to think of it as kind of a power dodging set, because you could just put your horses, on the wings and out top, and put your best dodging attackman on the wing, and you also, best dodging attackman behind, and it's also an amazing wing dodging offense. When you think about wing dodging the wings is probably the hardest thing to guard. Players don't know where they are, and you can, low wings and high wings, and trying to figure out, the shade. When you think about, if you listen to Jerry Byrne talk about one-on-one defense against wing dodges, there's a big difference between the way he positions his guys on a 45-degree angle on a high wing than on a low wing. And if the players don't know really where they are, it can be a huge disadvantage for the defense and a huge advantage for the offense. You're running it anyways. That bullet is just that, whether you realize it or not, 1-4-1s happen all the time. If you're running a 1-3-2 and you dodge, follow, and float and clear an attackman in there, usually another attackman ends up inside. If you're running a Syracuse offense and you clear any 2 behind 1-3 offense, when you clear somebody through, there's always going to be somebody else moving in there. And you end up in a 1-4-1 an awful lot. Double creases are great because they give you an opportunity to be in really threatening positions. But because it's sort of a high-low crease, it's really more of like a high crease, ball side, and a backside pinch. And to be honest with you, it plays out a lot like a 3-3 on man up. You get pairs looks opportunities, great opportunities for big little types of stuff. Obviously, if you saw the micro training that I did, on the greatest play ever, the 1-4-1 top dodging, center dodging offense, those looks are phenomenal looks within a 1-4-1. You can hang your guy up like crazy as the X guy, especially with some of the little exchanges you can get. And the last part that I want to talk about is the exchanges. When you exchange, particularly in a 1-4-1, you're putting the defense in a real decision-making process. Do they stay with their matchup and not cover the crease as well? Or do they commit to covering the crease and then give up their matchup? So there's a lot of great stuff about the 1-4-1. And, one of the things about a 1-4-1 that I think has been sort of like a downside of it is that it can be stagnant. But what you're going to see tonight is just how much movement you can get out of it and still be able to keep the integrity of the offense, whether it's exchanges, X and crease exchanges, wing top exchanges, wing crease exchanges, the mirror situations, which really kind of in the two-man stuff, which plays out a lot like pairs, the sort of shallow cuts and fades that you get, as well as various three-man rotations. When you think about a 1-4-1, you think about the fact that in the end, you kind of like don't have to move adjacently that much because you've got a lot of space. But when you do, you're really going to be thinking about using this terminology of fades. And fades is when the adjacent backs off just like this. And you've got to be ready to do that. It happens an awful lot that there'll be a fade when you dodge top side from the wing. And, you know, like this fade here is happening with a top dodge and a wing. But you can imagine that if we were dodging with this guy right-handed, that we'd have to fade back and give the space. So fades are huge, and you know, you can practice them like this in your 3-on-2s and your 3-on-3s, but you need to make sure that you do practice giving space by backing off. And you need to put that into all of your 3-on-2 type of movements. Shallow cuts too. So when you think about shallow cuts versus clear throughs or fades versus clear throughs, the reason is you've sort of already got two people on the crease. So unless you're going to do a three-man rotation, you'd rather not clear a third guy into the crease. So, you know, if you've got two people in there, you know, you'd rather fade the guy back than cut him in. And the same holds true with shallow cuts. And you're going to see here with Albany, they run a ton of 1-4. And you're going to see a shallow cut right there. And then you're going to see another shallow cut there. So just to like quickly review, we got a midi sweeping across the top, and you got a little shallow clear through. And the definition of a shallow cut is that he ends up behind the dodger. And then you see that this guy, this is Adam Osika, he played for me last year on the Blaze. He sweeps all the way across and takes the righty alley. And that the midi who was on that wing is clearing through, but he's shallow cutting behind it and ending up as the float behind it. And it creates some pretty nice offense, as you can see. There's like, you know, really kind of nice natural movement. And you've probably seen this clip before, but I really like to do shallow cuts out of all my unevens. This is a 2-on-1, 3-on-2 build-up. So you can see the 3-on-2 turns into shallow cuts and carries. And so if you work on this stuff in your stick work, this is like, you know, a ground ball, stick work, uneven, shooting, finishing, dodging, off-ball movement. It turns into a lot of things as it goes from 2-on-1 to 3-on-2 to 4-on-3, and now here 5-on-4, carry shallow. And we just integrate all this stuff in. So your kids will be ready for the movements of a 1-4-1 if they end up if you end up wanting to run this, but it's going to be important to have those fundamental movements down. So this is huge. This is one of the most fundamental parts of offense and one of the most fundamental parts of a 1-4-1. And that's that we dodge, pass, dodge. So you're going to see a split, a little bit of a redodge, takes it low, and then pass, dodge, and draw the defense over. And then you got pass, dodge, tough approach, and a quick little wrinkle, and Loyola scores. And so dodge, pass, dodge is one of the most important fundamentals of any offense. And in a 1-4-1, it's one of those offenses that's kind of developmentally sound because it's pretty easy for the kids to do it because they've got the outlets right there. So let's talk a little bit about hot spots and spacing. Spacing in any offense is so important. And in the 1-4-1, you've got the spacing involved with the adjacent players and the crease players. But you also have these hot spots. And, you know, what's really interesting about this 1-4-1, and this is why so many offenses actually morph into a 1-4-1, even if you started a 1-3-2 or a 2-1-3 or like a Crease type of offense, it morphs into, there's a dodger, there's a follow, there's a float, there's a ball side high guy on the crease, there's a backside low that's kind of like the pinch, and then there's an X guy. And if you sort of look at this is the same clip we were just watching, but let's just watch for a second the positions. Dodger, there's a follow out of the screen, there's a float over here, ball side high, backside low, he'll back off, and you got an X guy. So let's just sort of see the backside low guy. Yep, he backs off. There's your positions. Now it kicks up and over, bang, 2 passes, dodge, follow, float, ball side high, backside low, X. And in so many of these offenses, these are the, in this case, Loyola is playing this where they're leaving their guys on the perimeter in their spots. They've got short sticks on the wings. They got, probably the middy's getting the pole out top. He can always dodge if he wants to. They got the same 2 guys inside, and they're playing the ball side high, backside low. They might look to pick for each other in there. Not a whole lot of movement in motion, but you can see where the spots are. So now let's take a look at Denver. Denver, and a lot of teams do this, but Denver does a really nice job of mixing up who fills what spot. So we got a dodge, and we've got our 1-4 setup here. But watch what happens. The crease, the ball side crease becomes the follow. The backside crease becomes the ball side high guy. The top center guy cuts the middle, and he really becomes the backside low guy. And our float is out of the picture, but the float's in the float spot. And so there, if you really think about it, anybody can be playing any of the spots in your 1-4-1, and that's part of the way you're going to be able to get some really nice motions. And you can see here, they don't dump it to X, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later, but they end up doing the long carry wraparound type of deal, which really allows for some great feeding options. But just so we're clear on it, we've got all these spots, and to be more variable, we can have anybody playing any spot. So I want to talk to you a little bit now more about spacing, and I want to talk a little bit about lateral spacing here. So first of all, you can see the width that Denver has during the course of their setup. And that's great because it requires longer movements and longer approaches, especially for teams that don't want to give a big run at their man. And the other thing you're going to notice is that their crease rolls off. Sometimes they roll off to provide an outlet to move the ball, because when you only have 4 on the perimeter, it's a little harder to move it. So sometimes this guy might roll off to be an outlet, and other times he might, like this, roll off to set a quick little pick. Now the ball kicks up, and Denver's going to run. And here's where, it's hard to sort of see what set they're really in. But they go back to this 1-4 an awful lot. And you can see it right now. You got ball side high, backside low, follow and float. There's a dodge, draw, slide. And here's the lateral spacing I want to talk about, where your follow is going to get wide enough that he really is a tough cover, and your float is nice and wide as well. And we're going to see some other examples of this advantage of a really sound follow and a really sound float. So let's keep going. Here's an example of Navy run. They're pretty much a 1-4 team. And they dodge, physical dodge, kick it through X, up, and now all of a sudden they got a little split dodge and tough approach. Defense really sloughs down hard on this. Obviously, they're pretty worried about this dodger because they're like really sloughing hard. Physical dodge through X, and it goes up through X and up to the float in a really nice take. Now, I want to bring something else to your guys' attention. When you're in a 1-4, okay, you can see clearly it's a 1-4 here. So you got your wing top wing, your 2 inside guys, and your X guy. if you ask Scotty Marr, now he runs an offense that I would sort of call a 1-4. He calls it a 2-2-2. Why? Because he plays out of it more like this, where it becomes a 2-2-2 because he likes to dodge these goal line dodges all the time. So just sort of bringing it to your attention that your diamond becomes a box anytime the ball gets low enough or high enough and people back off. And here's where that fade's occurring. Watch the X guy fading back, giving the space necessary, and giving himself a really nice lane to be able to receive the ball and kick it up to that float, who now has a nice opportunity to dodge. Now let's look at reversing it to the follow. This is an awesome look. Here's the goal line dodge I was talking about. So Albany splits, they throw it to X, and now they throw it right back to this follow spot. And it's critically important that your follow gets to this sort of 10 yards in the hashes area. You know, he's a little bit tighter because Syracuse gave it to him. But anytime, you know, and this is true for your Syracuse offense, this is true for your 1-3-2, for your 2-1-3, it's true for all of these offenses. You need to be able to get into these follow and float spots to be able to have your lateral spacing. But you can see they rocketed off the pipe, but it's a pretty nice look. And here's another example of it where they're sort of playing out of a little bit of a two-man game with Fields and whoever that is there. I'm not sure who that guy is. And then they dodge a little bit of a higher wing, not quite a goal line dodge, but you're going to see the same kind of move and the same look from Fields right back to that follow. And I'm telling you guys, like that follow look it's really one of the best looks going, because what ends up happening is that the defense, when the ball goes to X, the whole defense begins to rotate this way. Everybody is flowing with the expected pass to the backside. And so when you take advantage of reversing it to the follow, it's pretty huge. So crease play. Let's talk a little bit about crease play. You know, for one thing, you got to give the spacing of the crease play is important. That's the away part. The picks inside is something that you should always be looking for. It's the picks action is more when a slide doesn't go. When a slide does go, I think your spacing is going to be more important. But when there's no slide and the ball's going through X, either on a pass or on like a long carry wraparound, that's when you get your pick action. And then be real careful about not cutting to the Dodgers on the island. So we're going to look at this. I'm going to fast forward this clip a little bit. So this is Denver, Notre Dame, and you're going to see Zach Miller get the ball, and he starts dodging. And I just want you to watch. I want you to watch Denver's crease guys here and watch how they start backing off to give space when they realize that there's going to be a dodge. So they back right off, and if there is a slide, they're going to be able to like fill that spot. But they do a really nice job of giving Miller enough space to get to the goal and make sure that, you know, he's got as much space as possible. And if Notre Dame isn't going to slide on time, then he's going to score. He's such a slippery dodger, which is going to be a big part of this presentation. But when we talk about it, and I already referenced this, ball side high, backside low is what you kind of want. So initially, you do what Denver does, and you give some space. Now, Loyola isn't giving as much space here, but they are. They kind of are giving the space necessary because this guy has the space. This guy's on the ball side high cut is not cutting into the island. The low guy is backing off. In many ways, they're just sort of setting their guys up to slide. So you can see they've got nice spacing. There's no slides going, but they are drawing the attention and the help of the top guy. which is a big part of defending this set. And we're going to see it again here, ball side high, backside low. It's almost like a little C cut in there, so you'll end up kind of making this type of a cut. But occupying these two spots, it's a lot like a 3-3 when you really start thinking about it. And so you're going to see the same thing. The ball moves again, and now you've got these guys giving space. Look at they see space, and they're going to give it. The other thing I want you to know about the crease play is that, yes, ball side high, backside low, but what do you do when they go top side? So you're going to see right here, the ball side high guy is in a position where he's pretty high, and all of a sudden this number 12 Dodger goes top side. So what does he do? He goes under. So that's a really, really important nuance, so that it's essentially kind of like a cycle or a mirror motion. So he's going to go opposite. Anytime your ball side high guy sees the Dodger go top side, he's going opposite because his man is probably going to slide. And now if he does slide, who's going to make the second slide here? This guy? It's an awful long way to go. So I can tell you guys, when you make the top side move, especially if you get a nice little fade back from the center man, when you make this top side move and you get the little ball side cut, the cycle, the mirror, whatever you want to call it, you draw that slide, you're going to have nice little throwbacks. This is one of the looks that John Torpy was talking about with me today that he thinks is so difficult. And he especially likes it when you have a shorty dodging from behind and a shorty on the wing and an attackman on the crease. He loves a little dodge and a kick up to the shorty. When this guy goes top side and the attackman cycles opposite, he feels like that short stick will very rarely do a good job on the second slide. So anyways, just a little look for you guys as you're thinking about this crease play, this crease action. It's pretty good. And it's really, really important. And it's really along the lines of everything that we already talk about and work on, because we're doing mirror type of action all the time anyways. So last point on this, guys, is that if you know you've got like maybe this is gonna happen with like a lefty top side dodge. If you have a lefty on the crease and you put him in the spot to make that lefty mirror, it's something to think about. Just like this one here, you'd rather have a righty on this mirror, ideally. If you can't do it, you can't do it. If you don't have a lefty, it's okay. But just be conscious of that. More so, teach your players to be conscious of that. Now, let's take a look. Denver's pretty crafty with their picks inside. And you're going to see a little dodge here, and there's really no slide. And now watch the backup pick. See that? So there's different ways. There are all kinds of different ways to sort of set these picks. This example is you've got your ball side high guy, and you've got your backside low guy. And the backside low guy is going to be the one setting the pick. But in this case, he's disguising a moving pick by backing up into the man with his stick in a receiving position. And so that's going to be really important to do, because if you're going to set a moving pick, you got to make it look like it's not a moving pick. Now, I want to show you guys another example of this real quick. Can you imagine for a second that we have two behind and we're going to like clear through into this position instead of starting with two on the crease? Can you imagine this guy here being there? Okay. It happens a lot anytime you're sort of in your 2-on-3. When you clear through in and you fish hook as the ball gets low, you're going to be able to get this same inside action And this is where the 2-1-3 becomes a 1-4. As I was telling you, it happens all the time. And this is, Denver runs this action a lot too. It's a real nice action because the way they end up doing this is that the defender guarding this guy doesn't realize all the time a pick's coming, because his man will turn and pivot to the outside to come off this pick, meaning he's not going to like face the pick. He's going to pivot on his left foot, and he's going to sort of see the perimeter here as he's making his spin. It's almost like spinning to come off the pick. So it's a real nice way of getting this look. And little fish hook, come on in, set it, come back off of it. When there's no slide, it's a really, really simple way of getting a 1-4 type of inside picking action off of the dodge and the throw to X or the long carry wraparound. It all works nicely, and it really should be, without a doubt, in your repertoire. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the dodging. I mean, this is a power set, and when I call it a power set, I just mean that you've got so much space. I want to talk sort of philosophically about offense before we get into this. There's really three things you need to have a great offense. You have to have dodging, people movement, and player movement. Player movement, people movement, and dodging. However you want to put it. Most of the time, people get 2 out of the 3, but not 3 out of the 3. And this is one of those sets that you're definitely going to get dodging out of it, which is why we're going over it so strongly. And you should definitely be able to get the ball movement because you've got the dodge, pass, dodge mentality. And as we get into this, we're going to start working on some of that people movement part. But the reason why I bring it up is because the dodging is like what creates the offense, and the spacing, which is why I think you see so many teams loving this. So let's kind of get into this for a second. Now, one dodge Denver does a lot of, we just watched this clip and I didn't comment on it, but watch this outside in dodge. What do I mean by that? I mean that you're going to see Tyler Pace here. He has already started his dodge before he catches the ball. And these guys are going to throw it. And he's already got the momentum of his body, which is going to make it a little tougher on this approach. Your outside in requires a pretty high level of skill because you got to be able to throw a good ball, to the receiver here. But it's a pretty cool technique to be able to do two things. One, it might catch your approaching defender in a position where he's not ready for your speed because you're getting there faster than you would if you waited out here to receive the ball, as opposed to catching it on the move. But the other thing is that if you can imagine all these defenders in here are also going to be caught a little bit later than they would have been if the player had caught it out here and initiated his dodge from there. So by catching it on the move, he's catching all of the defenders in a position where they're going to be a little bit later, which is why they do that outside in type of approach to their dodging. They don't do it all the time, but they do it fairly often if you watch. And it's a pretty nice technique that requires practice, but I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention. The other thing I want to talk about is the traditional V-cut and split dodge techniques. So here, what I mean by V-cut and split dodge, you've got a lefty here. And if he were going to take a V-cut, he would be jabbing and sticking his right foot in the ground and taking his left hand. And if he's going to be split dodging, he's going to fake that. He's taking the same angle, and then he's going to fake his jab with his right foot and then take his split dodge. And so it kind of looks like a little bit of a lightning bolt. And these angles are really, really important. And if the more you watch, the more you see these angles. In fact, I'm going to put it ahead here. Let's watch Let's watch this angle of Zach Miller. Look at the angle he's taking. He is, by virtue of him being a strong lefty, he's making this defender guard his top side while he's coming left-handed. If he put in his right hand early, the guy would be able to just start playing him. But because he keeps it in his left, he can subtly get more of a step, and he's almost initiating his dodge. I mean, look where he's initiating. It's kind of crazy if you look at this. Where does he make his break? He makes his break, and like literally, he's almost past his guy when he's making his break. So by keeping it in your left hand and taking this angle, it allows you to split and really be dangerous. So let's go back and take a look at this one here. We're going to see the split, same thing. He runs past his guy a little bit, and then he splits. He doesn't really try to beat his guy. You've already seen this clip, so you probably remember what's going to happen. Here you're going to see another split. That guy, I would tell you that he didn't take a great angle at all because he makes his move right in front of his guy. Why make your move in front of your man when you could make your move next to your guy and then make your break? Why does it work, do you ask? Because they're worried about your right hand, and they will overplay and sit on your right hand a little bit, and a late jab and go is going to give you a bigger step. The V-cut dodge, then we're going to see it right here. So the whole point is with your V-cut dodge is that your V-cut sets up your split. And this move that this guy's making, as you can see, he sells hard right, sticks his right foot in the ground, and is able to get his feet set to rip a shot. You can imagine that most defenders are going to be so afraid of that happening that they're going to overplay your top side so that you can fake your V-cut and take your split dodge. So your split dodge and your V-cut work together, okay? So I just want to make sure we're all clear on that. We got one more comment here. Hold on one second. Let me just check this. I thought it was PCI wireless. That was Chris. Okay. All right, so let's move on. We've talked about this. We've seen this clip already, but the threat of Zach Miller's left hand is what is setting in his V-cut dodge is what is setting up his split dodge, and he's able to glide right in and be a real threat. So now let's talk about slide dodges. Why are slide dodges so important? They're so important because you get so close to your man that there's virtually no cushion, and you can get their feet to stop. By doing so, you can get outside and turn the corner, and I can tell you that it's a really important, it's a super important technique that you should all practice and learn how to do, and it just allows you to draw slides. And in this wing dodging offense in particular, it's so important. Now, we're running a Syracuse offense right here, Syracuse motion. But as you can see, it looks an awful lot like a 1-4. You got ball side high, backside low, X, float, and follow. Our spacing isn't perfect, but you can see where it works. So here we go. Watch the dodger get the defender's feet to stop. Let me tell you something, guys. If you can throw the ball to X, and I practiced this with your inside hand, then it means you really turned the corner. And I'll tell you this too, and I learned this from watching Denver play a lot and watching Zach Miller. He would always, all the Canadians, they dodge so deep that they're able to turn a corner and throw the ball to X with their inside hand. And I always felt that if you drew a slide and you could throw the ball to X with your inside hand, you were almost guaranteed a great shot. So in review, why does a slide dodge work so well? Because you're eliminating their cushion, you're getting their feet to stop, and then you turn the corner. You eliminate the cushion. In that case, he drifted into it and really didn't get his feet to stop, but he did have the cushion advantage. Stop, go, stop, jab, go. That's what the slide dodge is all about. So here, my boy Shawnee Allen's on the call. This is me coaching a kid for the first time. This kid is Carter Zavitz. He plays at Princeton. And that's Latrell Harris. He plays pro. Didn't end up going to – he went straight from my basement to the pros. But watch me and listen to what I'm saying.
Closer, get closer, get closer. And then go. Get close, get close, close.
So
close, get close, get close.
What I'm saying, if you can't hear clearly, is get closer, get closer, get closer, get closer, get closer.
Closer, get closer, get closer. And then go. Get close, close.
By the way, the defender here, Latrell Harris, was like, you know, an 18-year-old in the NLL and was runner-up for Rookie of the Year. He's an unbelievable athlete. And this kid, Zavitz, is quick as hell, too. And by the way, just for shits and giggles, check out Zavitz's face dodge finish twister. It's absolutely gross. Hold on. I can find it again. Here we go.
And then go. Get close, close.
So nasty.
Close, get close.
You see there, he's doing it with a little bit of a split dodge.
Close.
This kid goes to Detroit. And you can do that move off of a little bit of a split.
Don't back off anymore, Chill. Get as close as you can. Get closer. Close. Close.
The whole idea is to operate so close to your man that they really struggle because there's no cushion. And you guys, some of you have seen this before. This is us practicing it at a practice last year. We got 4 corners practicing this. The instructions are get as close to your man as you can without getting jacked. What does that mean exactly? That means just outside of their ability to cross-check you. That's what that means. And you can see over here, we've got a whole nother group on another cage. That's still varsity guys. So we got 2 cages, creases. We got 4 groups around each cage. And we're repping out our slide dodges and our drift dodges. What's the difference between a slide dodge and a drift dodge, you may ask? A drift dodge is when you shuffle into your move. A slide dodge is when you try to get his feet to stop. If you get his feet to stop, it's a slide dodge. Now you see that we use jabs sometimes with our slide dodges too. Watch the jabs here. Jab, 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 and go. Just like in basketball, if you get close, you can use jabs. You can also work your way in and do this against long poles. By the way, check out this little play on the inside roll. Did you notice that? It's called a hook move. And anytime you get the V hold going and you don't like getting V held, this is not a clamp down. This is an ability, and we'll talk about this in another micro training, but you can basically spin and make it impossible for your defender to get his stick out without clamping down on his stick. Now, this last little play, this is me, and I'm clearly old and not very quick, but there's a move that I'm showing and that I want you guys to know that is so off the charts. I got to share it with you. And that is that what I've what I started doing and learning was that I could punch my left hand as a jab. And what it would do is it would make the defender, they would shift their weight on my left hand punching. But then because I wasn't dodging, in fact, I was leaning right as I was punching left, I would get their feet to shift, their weight to shift back. And I could get a step that was just absurd. And I'm literally like getting steps on kids that are much quicker. And it's because of this really subtle punch. I did it there off of a split. So it's a move that we'll get into later. I'm going to try to teach it to you guys on a micro training. So your drift dodge, as I mentioned before, has a little bit more to do with shuffling. Shuffle. Grundy teaches this a lot. You're going to see that's more of a jab, but you're going to see a drift coming up here in a second. Same kid, the Zavitz kid. Let's see. Here's a drift. Drift, 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 go, stop, go. Nice little leaner. So, guys, I can tell you that your drift dodging is going to be should be a huge point of emphasis, because I think it's the easiest way to teach people how to dodge. Personally, I've had an easier time teaching that to every single level. Your wind-up one-on-ones, you've probably seen some of these videos before, but you have to do wind-up one-on-ones if you're going to be great as a wind-up team. Okay? Here you're going to see, looks like a 1-4. It's a Syracuse motion offense. You're going to see it, a rollback, a physical dodge. You got two guys inside. The ball gets kicked up and over, and you're going to see a wind-up dodge on the backside with a little hesitation, and that's the kind of multiple dodging that you want to have. The rollbacks, if you watch college lacrosse, you have to be able to do rollbacks and cutbacks and finalizers and moves like that, because at the end of the day, you're just not going to beat people on one move. And it's funny because, like, Jerry Byrne will say, "Oh man, I want you. I love it when you give us time. I love it when you multi-move us." Well, this is overtime in the semifinals. The Zach Miller with a V-cut swim move rollback and game winner. So it's a little harder to defend than maybe anybody wants to kind of think about. So we're going to watch this one more time. V-cut, that's the threat of the V-cut that scares the crap out of everybody, to a little swim, to a rollback. Draw the slide one more, and then the rest is history. Denver's off to the championship game. The wraparound dodge, I've referenced it a couple times. We've seen this clip before, but listen, guys, when you are dodging on your wrong side, okay, meaning when you're dodging as a right-hander down this way and you're not really loving your left hand, like this guy's Canadian, he's got no left. So why make them roll back? Why not just let them run right through X and be a threat? In fact, sometimes they can be a threat to come right around and score, but a good feeder is going to be able to have his head up, and he's going to find opportunities all over the place. So your wraparound is a really, really key skill in your 1-4-1. And you can see that they got that nice little center man cut, which is a pretty sick look. It's funny because I'm really wishing I ran one more 1-4 action. This is, I think we might have seen this also. No, this is a different look, but this is going to be another wraparound look. Dodge, no slide, no inside action, wraparound, throw back, and they attack out of it. So I'm going to take a couple questions here. Hold on a second. Got two questions. Shouldn't the slide dodge be initiated with one hand on the stick, though? With two hands or one hand? Yeah. So, Dave, the answer to the slide dodge question is that, honestly, I'll go back to it real quick. It's actually it's a really nice technique to be able to go with one hand on your stick. You're a little faster with one hand on your stick because you can swing your arms and you can jab and you can use your right hand to jab, and you can punch a little bit. You can jab with your right foot. There are times when you have to hold your stick If it's a pole, you got to hold it back. If it's a shorty, you can hold it to the side. If it's a righty pole, you don't even have to worry about it because their pole's like on the wrong side. If it's a righty pole and they start dangling it in there, that's why we were working on that play that you saw when we were working on this scenario right here. Bear with me. Yeah, right here, we're working on holding our stick back when they're dangling their stick in there. And if they do that, we're going to look for our hook. If they don't put the stick back to a cross check, we're going to roll back and take their stick right with us. I've talked to NCAA officials about this, and they say it's absolutely not your responsibility to get the stick out of there. So, all right, we're moving on here. Guys, I don't know how much you emphasize this, but physical dodging might be the most important thing going as far as dodging. If you were going to pick one thing, it's probably getting into your guy. All these moves and splits and V-cuts and all that are kind of like, they're important, but compared to doing this, compared to hammering your guy, look at how this Navy Hopkins defense is responding to the physical dodge. They are over helping like crazy. And the truth is that physical dodgers, are the best dodgers. So initiating contact on your man, you know what I say, get extra pads, pad up, be physical as hell. And if you watch your players dodging and they're not being physical and you're not scoring goals, it's because you're not being physical. You have to initiate contact on your guy. You have to work on it in tight confines. You're seeing this guy slam his body right in, start with a cross check right on. You have to initiate contact. These are called tight one-on-ones, and they are really, really important drills to be able to teach your players how to initiate contact, feel the contact, use the contact to be able to get close to the net. All right, enough on dodging, but I'll tell you, there's probably nothing more important than the individual skills that make up your offense. So let's talk a little bit about the Denver exchange. Really, Scotty Mara was probably doing this at Albany, but I'm giving Denver the credit on this. But this is the exchange that I want to talk about. Notice the way that these guys do their exchange. And the exchange I'm referring to is the exchange between top center and backside wing, because this guy is going to do the dodge. You're going to see this man cut across at about 15 yards, and you're going to see this guy slowly drift into his float spot. This guy is becoming the follow. This guy is becoming the float. Why is this important? Because if you just have a simple exchange out of these two guys, it's pretty easy for these defenders to zone it up. But when you actually turn this into a cut at 15 yards, he has to be guarded. And now this guy can make his way down, and this cut really opens it up. So you're going to see Denver, they do this all the time. And when you're teaching your exchange, and this is one of the key motions you're going to get, the exchange when one wing dodges, top center and backside wing exchange. Now let's talk and remind you again about the predicament this puts the defense in. If they want to stay with their men, they're not going to be able to help in the middle as well. If they want to zone it up, that means that they lose their matchups. And there's a reason why the poll's on this guy, because it's the guy they want the poll on. Now, Notre Dame happens to be a team that worries a little bit less about matchups. But you know what? They don't totally not worry about it, because they actually do put a poll on somebody. So let's watch it the next time around. We're going to see the Denver exchange, a really, really important teaching point. And this is true for your 2-1-3 as well as your 1-4-1, and you can see that exchange. Let me tell you this too, is that when this guy's going across on this exchange, If the dodger were to go topside, he could mirror it and go underneath. Okay, so he's low enough. He's below 15. He's probably at 13 yards. He could go under this topside move if that's what they wanted to do. Okay, so when I was referring to this before, I said you could do this out of your 1-4-1 or out of your 2 behind. That's because those sets are almost the same. So you're going to do this in both of those sets, and you're going to create some movement and motion. As you can see here, Notre Dame elects to stay with their matchups, which in the end is opening up the inside. This guy, if he makes a cut, this guy is trying to split 2 right now, and these guys, through the fact that they stayed with their matchups, were not covering up inside as well as they could have. Okay, let's watch it again. Denver exchange on the OT winner. We've watched this. Denver had run this pretty slick little like overload. They always do this thing where they window dress everything. They got overload on this side. They had Zach Miller going over. He got shut off. Notre Dame knew it was coming. So now they're balancing back into their 1-4. It's taking them a second to get there. Now they're in it. The ball moves over, and now they're getting their little exchange, cutting over, redodge, pass, dodge, pass, game winner. Let's talk a little bit about Crease X exchanges. These are really, really nice ways of creating problems for a defense. So what you're going to see here is a ball side cut and a backside exchange going to X. So the ball goes across. I think we just watched this clip. This is the Denver exchange. But watch this guy is going to like clear in, and he'll get his fish hook while this guy steps behind. That exchange behind is really tough to deal with because it ties guys up, and it really puts Denver in a great position to hang his man up. And you know how they love hanging their guy up. So this guy is sort of in a 2-slide position. This guy has to stay with his own man on the clear through. This guy is thinking, I might need to help, especially if this guy's thinking he needs to slide. And we just watched this clip, and we know that it was a little bit of a predicament for Notre Dame on this. So let's watch it again. Hold on a sec. So let's check it out. A little float out. This guy's thinking, I might need to help on this little float out. And at the same time, these guys are like, I'm going to try to hang you up. Now he's got a little bit of a tough approach as he tries to go play it behind. And nothing really happens from it, but they do it all the time. You're going to see it happen again right here on this same Miller's dodge, Crease X exchange, and look at the opportunities. It opens up your abilities to feed so well, you guys. So if you want to be able to like feed some action coming inside, you know, remember I was talking about the various little, you know, fish hook action, backside, pick that guy. You know, now this man's going behind here during this little fish hook action is going to have a better chance of having his hands free to feed. Why? Because they did a little Crease X exchange. It's a really nice little look. Up, and there's the look. You can see the backup pick happening right there. That is what's happening on the backup pick. I had forgotten to show this before, but check out Miller with a little wind-up dodging action. Wind-up, face dodge, roll back. Man, that guy makes it look so easy too, doesn't it? Doesn't he? I swear, he might have been my favorite player. So I call this the Dave Cottle look. He loves, it's the Crease X exchange, and it's the backside cut, ball side float. Now, sort of think about this for a second. We've got to, get this out of the way here. We've got a dodge coming here. We got this guy is hot, and he's guarding this man. When a backside man cuts, his guy has to cover him. When you get this little exchange action going on between these two guys, it ties those men up, and you can get a float back that ends up open, and in this case, Richmond scores on it. Now, this may not be exactly how Cottle would draw it up, but it's pretty similar to the look that he always talked about. And you see how open that gets. I'm going to show you guys really quickly another example of this real quick. Give me a second. This is I couldn't find an example of it, so I'm just going to draw it for you real quick. But it's a pretty slick little look. So let's just say we've got wing, and we got the Dodger here. Okay. And we've got, let's put our defenders in here. Whoops. Defender, 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 defender. All right. So we're going to get a dodge, and we're going to say one of these two guys is going to be hot, and it's probably going to be this guy. But we can play it. You can draw it up yourself. When this guy makes a cut, his man is going to have to guard with him. When this guy makes a cut early enough, his man is going to have to stay with him. When that guy does his X exchange, his man, they can zone this up, but they got to play this. And now if this guy had dropped a little bit lower and floated out the back, you can see how a skip or a two-pass scenario could be open. And you could also see how it could be a seal play, where this guy could be sealing in for this guy, really sealing his own man in for this guy floating out. So that is the wing X exchange with cutting the fill. Cutting the fill is like, that's like one of Cottle's favorite things to do. He always talked about it. So that's just a couple of the nice little wrinkles that you can do. I want to show you one more look, actually, now that we're here. This is a look that Ohio State used to like to do, and this is pretty sick, actually. This is kind of the Denver exchange. I think I might have missed a defender here. Yeah. So this is out of the Denver exchange playbook, and Ohio State used to run this way back when Bresh was there and I was coaching. The ball would go over the top from this wing over to that wing, and you get the same exchange action here, the same dodge here, but now you're going to get this guy, but he kind of cuts all the way over the top like he's going to be the follow. So instead of cutting the middle, he's like more up top here. And this same little float skip look ends up being there. So it's the same concept that we just drew, but it's a higher cut across. So if the restraining line was here, you'd cut, at around 17 yards, and you'd get all the way over on your Denver exchange and open up that crease. And frankly, that's kind of what Denver does a lot anyway. So anyways, just figured I'd share that one with you real quick. Couple little looks. Let's get back to it. We will watch this one again for the heck of it. Backside exchange, cut the middle, and they can't get there. No goal, but it was a good opportunity on the skip pass. All right, pairs looks. This happens all the time, guys. How? Well, because you can mirror. So you're going to see Notre Dame here running a 1-4, and you're going to see a crease mirror on each one of their plays. So underneath dodge, a crease mirror, zip it over. Quick little, nice little strip there. They bounce back up. You're going to see it happen a couple more times. They got their balance, dodge, crease mirror, throw to X. That was actually a 3-man rotation, but they're kind of running this crease follow. You're going to see it happen one more time here on the wing. You can see how that's my boy Will Corrigan there. He had taken that initial alley dodge, and now he's hustling up because he thinks there might be a dodge from Perkovic there, but it doesn't. Whoops, it goes over to the wing. And once the ball gets to the wing, Corrigan's going to be, he hustles up. The ball goes to the wing, and now he's going to be the mirror. And it's very much like a pairs set. So you can pop from the wings, it's essentially like following from the wings, but that was the top side action. And that's the same action that we talked about earlier, guys, when we talked about the fact that you're going to mirror opposite. Albany runs a fair amount of wing picks. You can see here a wing pick and a little shallow cut, and it opens up a skip pass to be able to dodge. They do this stuff all the time. I think you're going to see it again right here. That time they don't use the pick, and they move it. So nifty these guys are, aren't they? So this is kind of like a pick, you know, like remember the Steve Brundage talk? What's the difference between picks and mirrors and bails? They're all putting the defenders in a position where they have to decide whether they're going to go. But what's really tricky about doing wing picks, that I just want to bring to your attention, is that when you're mirroring or just a crease guy, this guy can declare himself as hot. But if all of a sudden you come up and set a pick, and depending on how you play it, somebody else might have to slide because your switch might get beat. You've created more space. And so it's a little bit of a different read for everybody on a mirror versus a pick situation, especially if the pick's a short stick and all of a sudden they have to switch that pick. Now who's going? So you can really think about how tricky it is if this is a shorty on the pick and they make that switch and all of a sudden it's, you know, the other team's best player going downhill on you. What was your slider is now a picker's man, and now you have to like make some slide decisions. And it all happens so quickly because if he doesn't pick, you are the slider. And you got to figure out which way is he going, who's going to be the second slide, back to that torpy concept. So it's pretty tricky stuff. But hold on. There we go. Denver kind of was running all this little window dressing action of multiple pairs as they were kind of playing out of their 1-4-1 set. You can see how they're just setting picks all over the place and running these various looks of picking actions where they're just coming up and setting picks and running out of their 1-4. You can see they're in it right now. They flow in and out of it so beautifully. It's so fun to watch the way they do that. And you can really see all of their spacing. So let's talk about this for a second. You can run 3-man midfield motions out of your 1-4-1. So let's take a look. So you've got these three guys right here running a little bit of a dodge, clear through, fade type of motion. You're going to see it here with Ohio State. Look at the motion that they're running. They're running a 1-4 and a 3-man rotation that you might run with your dodge, follow, float, or any of your Blue Devil regular looks and all that stuff. You're going to see those 3 middies, but you've got 2 attackmen on the inside. Then they're getting it over to the wing, and they are dodging wings. Okay, so they're clearly in a little 1-4 mirror situation right there. And now they're back into their 3-man motion again. Now they got 2 behind, and now they're going to get it back out to that wing. And now they're balancing back into their 1-4-1 as they attack. So it's pretty interesting the things that you can do and the things that people are doing to create more movement and motion out of their 1-4-1. So you've got 2 separate groups here, a group of these 3 guys, and then you've got these 2 guys that are crease guys. But these guys are not straight crease guys, just like Denver was doing. These guys are rolling off the crease to set picks, to provide outlets, to move the ball and play lacrosse. But they're kind of playing, they're getting the benefits of the 1-4, and they're getting the motion benefits out of your 1-3-2. This is Duke's offense, and we've talked about this because I put together that greatest motion offense video. And you think of Duke's offense as being a 1-3-2. But it's pretty much a 1-4-1. Ball side high, backside low, shallow cuts, clear throughs, ball side pop. Look at the positioning. They'll step behind and they'll dodge their attackmen and they'll get two behind sometimes. But the more you watch this offense, the more you realize that what they're really doing is they're starting in a 1-3-2 and they're getting into a 1-4-1 with a ball side high, backside low. And now the other thing that's so fascinating about it is that it usually just turns into basically into a 3-3. Why? And we've watched some of their clips. Why is it a 3-3? Because if you kind of look at it, we'll find a good place to stop this. But let's take a look in a second here. It's a 3-3. If you stop that video. Apologize that I keep screwing up the space bar there. We'll just let this thing flow. So see if you can see where the attack are. See if you can see where the middies are. They're playing a 3-man midfield motion here with 2 attackmen on the inside. And it's kind of funny that, you know, even this is when I said I was learning a lot. It's because I thought of this offense, and I ran it last year. I thought of it as more of a 1-3-2 that dropped 2 behind. But really, it starts nice and wide. And the dynamic nature of all this movement is harder to guard than probably the stagnant 1-4 just sitting on your wings. But clear through, shallow clear through. Look at the 3-3 setup they're in. That low guy backside is really the backside low guy. And now he's floating off. They can get to a 2 behind whenever they want. But what's so neat about it is the way it flows and the way that all those important spots are covered. There's your Blue Devil look. There's your 1-4 look. And then they throw it behind. Okay? So I thought you'd find it interesting. There's other looks that you can do. Denver was running their little stack action. They initiate so much. You know, they do their window dressing there with a 2-man behind. They throw it up top. Now they're getting into what I would refer to as a stack action. So that's midi, midi, midi. And then it ends up being like 5 guys in a row. 1, 2, 3 in a stack, and then the other 2 attack might be stacked also, or they might be split. But either way, they're basically playing out of what turns into a 1-4. And you can see it, ball side high, backside low, float, follow. And they kind of like, it might take them a second to sort of balance up, but the more you watch it, the more you see that they're just getting to their spots. They got their X guy looking to hang up. They throw weaves and picks in there. It's kind of a beautiful amoeba type of offense to look at and watch. They'll get their 2 behind for a little bit, and then they'll end up kicking it up. And then they'll get right back into guys getting inside, and they'll have their 2 guys inside, ball side high, backside low. And then Zach Miller makes that look easy again. The other thing that I was talking to Coach Torpy about today that he absolutely loves about this 1-4-1 set is that there's so many great opportunities for big little up. So, you know, you dodge one side and then you can pick down on the other side. And we talked about this in the big little presentation from a week or 2 ago. But just watch this. This guy right here is going to run down. There's going to be a wing dodge, and he's going to run down and be setting that goal line pick. And we talked about this should be in everybody's repertoire. Hard to guard. Not easy for a team to deal with. You're probably going to see it yourself, so you might as well put it in so you can practice it against yourself. But they're looking for this goal line pick all day, and look, they get the switch very least. You know, now their best attackman has a shorty on them, and it's going to, you know, obviously anytime we know how important ball pressure is to the success of the defense. So if you can get your best player with a short, you know, it's going to be good for you. I'm not going to go. We already seen a possession. Here we've got Navy again, but I'm going to skip on that one because we've already kind of seen that. Here you got Ohio State playing out of that little 3-man motion set we were talking about. And then, hey, we're just going to get a little flyby here. And they just get a quick look. That's something that, you know, that was a great opportunity. That kid probably should have faked and scored that goal. So there's tons of opportunities. And then we talked about the center dodges. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the micro trainings that I put together. But if you haven't watched those 141 center dodge micro trainings, I advise you to watch them. I'm not going to go over them too much right now. But anytime you end up dodging the center, it is tricky. It allows you to roll back. Rolling back in the middle of the field is hard to deal with because right here, when you're in the middle of the field, there is no ball side. So it's hard for the defense. They have to guard both sides of the field here. And this little throwback opens up an opportunity where this kid probably, you know, if he was a lefty, he would have had an opportunity to score a goal. You can see Albany runs this. You know, they just play, but, you know, when they dodge the center, sometimes their wing will just come over and set a pick. Let's see when this happens. Throw up, pick, and they just dodge out of it. They get a good opportunity and score a goal. So run that one again. All that is just the ball kicked from one wing to top center and the other wing set a pick. Anytime you set those little picks, and all of a sudden that's kind of like, it wasn't exactly a slide dodge, but what it is the double threat position where there is no cushion and all of a sudden it's too late. So that's why the advantages of that, of eliminating cushions, is so important. Here we've got a little double mumbo action. Looks like my screen is a little offset here. Hold on a second. Fix this. There we go. So double mumbos. I didn't go over this before, but I just want to talk about it really quickly, just because there's a couple of simple things with it. Obviously, if the defense screws it up like they did here, they sent two guys. You know, you're going to get, because you have the little seal action, you can get an easy little score out of it. This guy should be sealing this guy, or, you know, whichever guy slides. If he slid, you know, you got your 2-on-1 here, and that guy can be open. So that's the first look. But a good defense, which Virginia wasn't on this play, isn't going to just give you an easy little catch and dump. But you know what? If somebody screws it up, it's a pretty easy way to get a goal. What's really going to be open more, though, is the wing-to-wing look, where you catch it and you throw wing-to-wing. That wing-to-wing look on your double mumbo is really the key look on the whole thing. And we'll just run that back one more time. Mumbo, kick down, the backside guy pops up. That wing-to-wing is the number one look you're going to get in this offense. Make sure you write that down, because you're usually not going to score the look that Virginia scores here. You're going to score the look that this team scores here. This is the center dodge look that we talked about in that micro training. So we'll look at it real quick. But at the end of the day, the reason why this can work really well is simply because the spacing is such that if you have an on-time sneak here and these two defenders go with the pop out in the backside wing, it leaves this one man guarding two. So I'm not going to go into it. It takes too long, but I did a good micro training on that, so you guys should be able to check that out. And this 42 look I love also. This is like a 1-4 top dodge with the pick out top. And this is just a really tough look for a defense to deal with. And this is also in the micro training, but it gives you the beauty of the 1-4. I mean, look, how are you going to like slide and cover that up? The answer is you're not. And if you don't slide, you know, and you can run by somebody, you're going to score. Remember, the one tricky part of this whole thing is that what we're asking these guys to do is we're asking like this guy to pop up while this guy pops up. And so therefore, if there is a dodge and a shot, this guy is in a really tough spot to be able to back up the net. You can actually see that he's trying to do both. He's trying to occupy his man, but he realizes there might be a shot and he's ready to back it up. So that's the 42 look here. And really, really hard look for a team to deal with. So I recommend you getting this look in the repertoire for sure. And now 7:22, 9:22 your guys' time, or sorry, 10:22 your guys' time. I am free to take questions. So if you're up for it, let's do that. And I'm gonna take a sip of beer now. So let me know what you guys thought. If this was helpful. You know what I was thinking about doing? Let me know if you think this is a good idea. I was thinking about putting together a micro training for drills for a 1-4. If I had a bunch from last season, we just didn't run a lot of 1-4. So I think some 4-on-4 drills would be really, really good. And I've got some really great ideas on that. So I'm going to try to put those together in the next week or two. And we can also go over that kind of stuff if you want to at any of our, office hours. But it seems like we got no questions on board here. You guys got any or what? Or are you guys all drinking beers? Or is there a delay? Good presentation, drinking beers. Wife is yelling. Huh. Pretty funny. Everybody. I kind of want to let you guys talk. I'm unmuting all of you. If you guys want to talk. You're all unmuted. One by one. Nate, I can't let you talk because it's not letting me let you talk. Steve Moreland, Shawnee, you guys are all unmuted. Well, you guys are muting yourselves right now, but I just unmuted everybody. So if you just want to talk and ask questions, you're welcome to. Can you guys hear?
Is there a micro training on utilizing the 1-4-1? I know Stephen had talked about it. They really utilize that mostly against the zone. When he was talking to his pairs lecture. How do you vary the offense when you're going against some sort of a backer zone or a 3-3 zone?
Well, Coach Hunter, the good news is if you're available tomorrow, Coach Metzbauer is going to be talking about zone offense, and a lot of it will be 1-4-1, getting into zone stuff. So we might as well just wait for him to do that, and then we can talk more about it at another training. What do you think about that?
Okay, thank you.
Chris Arnold is muted. I can't tell if you guys are muted or on your own, or if I have to unmute you.
No, we have to unmute it here.
You guys,
so you gave us there was a click on that we had to pick to unmute us.
Got it. Yeah, Shawnee, Chris, Brendan, everybody's all muted. What else? Any other questions, guys?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So isn't a 1-4-1 just a 2-2-2 on its ear?
Isn't a 1-4-1 just a 2-2-2 what?
On its ear.
Sideways? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was kind of making that point earlier. Yes, it is. I just think that when the difference, when a 1-4-1, when you carry the ball up or down, you're pushing people into a box from a diamond. So in that sense, absolutely. I think that the difference between a 2-2-2 at heart and a 1-4-1 at heart is 1-4-1 is more wing dodging, and 2-2-2 traditionally is more alley dodging. And the way the rotations work is a little different. and that most of the time when 141s turn into 222s, it's usually because it's a very low wing dodge, and the midi on that wing with the shorty is dodging like a goal line, and then it's him and the other attackman behind that make up the 222, if that makes sense. But
That does make sense, but defensively speaking, I think the dodge down the GLE is much more significant than the alley dodge.
definitely, absolutely, so much scarier. Yep, so much closer. It's kind of like a borderline invert. I mean, it is an invert as soon as you go below. So that's why Scotty Marr does it every time. That's all he's ever done, and he's done a great job, creating offense for his teams, even back when he was at Maryland. They just did this goal line dodge forever. And they made it to the Final Four a bunch of times. They never won it, but they were really good in the late 90s. And that was right around the time that he made the move to Albany in 98 or something. Anybody else got questions? Shawnee.
Yeah, man.
Shawnee Allen.
What's happening?
What do you think, man? You got any comments on this? Shawnee's a Canadian, so, he knows box lacrosse. He doesn't know field lacrosse very well.
Yeah, and pardon my accent too. A lot of great movements in there, man. A lot of great breakdowns, and just like you can't. I agree with you. Like your observation on, you can't focus enough on really drilling down into those individual skills. The components that make up every single one of those movements all start with what's like personal skills and tendencies. It's pretty awesome. Some great examples there too.
Cool. And how'd you like seeing Zavi and Trelli?
backyard field up in the Great White North.
That was pretty sick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you guys, Sean Allen was my son's coach up in St. Catharines, but also those two kids, Latrell Harris and Carter Zavitz, they're his kids too. So I was up there last summer and got myself they mowed the lawn for us and everything, Shawnee.
So we really roll it out when you guys want to do something. Top class, top shelf.
Chris, Dave, Brendan, you guys got any more questions?
I'm just getting in because I had to go do a room check. So
Really?
I,
Did you find any contraband?
no contraband. Just looking at how do you think Denver gets to that point? I mean, it just looks so unscripted in what they're doing. I mean, everything just seems like what you're saying about how smoothly they kind of flow from one spot to another, and then it seems like the offense never stalls, where a guy's got to pull it out and figure out what the hell's going on. Do you know anything about how they're looking to that point, or how they're practicing that?
What'd you say, Dave?
Scholarships.
Yeah, scholarships, Canadian, world-class players,
Clearly smart guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in finding out, so I'll get back to you on that.
Love it.
Clearly, they've got some motions that they work on, and they just kind of they like to, they mirror a lot. They just one guy will just sort of take. I think they just kind of float out, and somebody takes the follow. They just know where the spots are. I mean, the spots are all the same.
Hey, Jamie, one thing I noticed today is that with our practice today and watching what you presented tonight, I really, really think that it's about the offensive players reading the defensive players.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I got.
You know what, guys? You know what? I didn't mention this, but the slide dodge I was talking about? That dodge is one of the best dodges as far as teaching people how to read the defense. One of the biggest problems I think that that people have when their offenses turn it over is because the kids are dodging without really looking at the defense. They're just dodging. They might see some space to dodge into, but they're not seeing a slider and they're not seeing an outlet. And so one of the things that I love about the double threat family of dodges of crowding your guy and slowing down is that when you get good at it, you don't have to look at your man at all. You quickly can identify, all right, that guy's hot, and I can like now play with him a little bit, and I can see my outlet. So I know, like, if I go hard as hell, I know that I can get it to him. And you might even be able to check, you know, and if you can find just the slider in your outlet, you're probably in pretty good shape. You can even figure out where second sliders are and skip passing lanes, then you're in great shape. But that's something that a lot of people don't think about that I think is so important. It's just identifying those two things. Who's going and where's my outlet, so that you, when you do go hard, you're not just going to run. How many times do you watch your middies just like literally like, what are you guys looking at? And the answer is nothing. So we got to like try to sort of tell them where to look. What else? Well, it's getting late back east. I'm in Orange County. I'm spending this week here in Orange County, California. We got the Heels playing the Terps on Saturday, and the Heels need a win, man. They're reeling. So getting fired up for that. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. East Coast, Dave Metzbauer on zone offense. I chatted with him today. This guy's such a good guy. He's really mellow. He's really pretty quiet, a little on the introverted side. But when you get him talking, he's like never stops. He loves lacrosse as much as anyone I've ever met. And I'm really psyched that he's coming on tomorrow. So we'll check you guys out tomorrow. If you got any comments, please don't hesitate to email me, text me, Voxer me if you got lax questions. And we'll go from there. So I'm gonna tune out right now. And thank you very much, boys. Appreciate it. And
Very cool. Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, brother.
Later.